Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, no kings. Also, Barry Moore receives Trump's stamp of approval. And how would a ballot challenge play out for Tommy Tuberville?
Yeah, that's real good, law dog, because law just don't go around here.
Yeah, I heard you the first time. Winner to the king.
Wait a minute. Is that how we do it? No law? Law dog? All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire. And it's a man, it's a bird, it's a plane. It is Josh Moon, investigative reporter at APR and columnist.
I was a little confused by the bird part. I don't think we talked about that one, but otherwise, spot on.
It's Super Josh. It's Super Josh.
Yeah, Super Dad.
You know, we get so many questions about Tommy Tuberville's residence. Mm-hmm. Is he a resident of Alabama? According to
what Josh said,
the Alabama Constitution, he has to have lived here 7 years consecutively prior to the election. We've covered it. Other people have covered it. It's been covered nationally. And no one, not even Republicans, actually believe that Tommy Tuberville has been a resident of Alabama for 7 consecutive years. Now, they've got all kinds of talking points around it. The main talking point is that we have a law that says you have to have done that. Mm-hmm. But it appears that this law is not going to be enforced. But if there was, there are several mechanisms to a challenge. First, a mechanism is in place where Tuberville would go before the ALGOP, the Alabama Republican Party. The executive committee would listen to arguments, a challenge there, look at evidence, whatever would be presented, and then they would vote. And everything I understand, Susan, they are not going to vote against Tommy Tuberville. Now, if Tuberville somehow gets on the ballot and he is elected governor, there was a challenge. There would be a hearing in the House and the Senate to determine if he was in fact eligible to be governor. Now, Josh, there is a third mechanism, which is not one that's commonly cited in the Constitution, but is legally binding.
Yes, there are, and you're right to all of those things that you said. Which one thing I'd like to kind of go back to is the fact that no one really argues this point anymore. They just strictly go right to the part where they say, "Hey, they're never gonna kick Tuberville out and do the right thing." Right. So there is a step in between the Republican Party and the executive committee voting to whether or not he can be placed on the ballot according to the laws of this state, and the challenge that would come after he was elected and would then remove him from office. And that is what's called a quo warranto, something along those lines. It's essentially a challenge after he becomes the nominee. And it can be filed by pretty much anyone in the state who's a citizen of this state. And it basically challenges him as the nominee for this party, because once you become a nominee for the party, you are considered at that point a quasi-state official. All right, and you are then beholden to all the laws that go along with running for office, including the residency requirement. At that point, it is filed not with the Alabama Republican Party and not with the heavily supermajority in the legislature, but with the courts, and it would be filed in Montgomery Circuit Court. And at that point, they would start essentially a trial to determine whether or not Tommy Tuberville can meet the requirements that go along with being the gubernatorial candidate on the Republican side.
And that's where, that's the place it could get stopped if they followed the law. Mm-hmm. But it still could go to the executive committee where they go, to hell with the law. Mm-hmm. It could go to a trial in the legislature where the Speaker of the House would sit as the presiding officer, and then it would take a majority to remove him. And once he was removed, in other words, they would say, you were never qualified to run for office. Then that goes to the lieutenant governor, who becomes governor because the governorship is vacant, Susan. But there is not a living soul that I can find that believes that the Republicans would follow the law in this case.
They haven't so far. Why should they start now? I mean, everybody knows. We've proven it time and time again. The only thing we're missing here are his tax returns, which they're going to have to subpoena to get those, which if you go into a court of law, that's where that's going to go first thing. The interesting thing is if someone challenges it in the scenario that Josh was talking about and it was defeated in the courts or determined that he does not qualify, the Republicans cannot replace him on that ballot.
Yeah.
That ballot, that becomes a vacancy.
Yeah.
And therefore, whoever is, probably the Democratic nominee there is going to win the election.
Yeah, because there is nobody else.
Right.
There is nobody else. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is unprecedented, not because both parties haven't skirted the law in their own way, but this is a flagrant violation if he is not a resident. And he could prove he's a resident. Josh, we all know this easily enough by producing 7 years of Alabama tax returns. All he has to do is show he filed them. He doesn't have to show us the numbers on there, but show us the tax returns. You can redact everything but where you said you were living when you filed them and the dates that you filed them, and then it's case closed. But I don't believe he's shown us that because I don't believe he's got them.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I will say, there's obviously some pitfalls with all three of these things, and the main one for this middle ground, the court trial, the court case that would come about, would be the fact that they could run out the clock on this thing and get to the election beforehand. But I will say what will occur is the production of discovery in a lot of these cases, and if let's say the judge rules that they've got to turn these things over, well then you're in trouble. You then have the legislature that has to overlook the fact that if he doesn't have those tax returns, they have to stand there and say to you, "We know he doesn't have them, but we're still gonna allow him to be governor."
But you're talking about the same people that are saying, "Well, we know he doesn't live in the state, but we're still allowing him to be on ballot."
This reminds me of how Donald Trump's political career really took hold, and that was with the birther movement when he said that Barack Obama was not born in the United States, therefore not qualified to be president, and they went on and on and on, and Barack Obama produced a birth certificate. It didn't end the discussion until years later, but they built a movement around it. Is there a movement around Tommy Tuberville, show us your tax records? I don't think so, but there should be. Anyway, we're gonna have to. We run out of time. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Well, Susan, big news last week in Alabama politics. President Donald Trump came out and gave his full and unequivocal and absolute and endorsement. I can't remember all the words he uses, but to endorse Congressman Barry Moore for Senator of Alabama. I do think that changes the game quite a bit. It didn't help Luther Strange very much. It didn't help Roy Moore at all. It didn't help Mo Brooks at all. But this one, it feels a little different.
This one feels a little different. And I think this is going to be kind of a game over in this situation. You got, basically you've got him and you've got Marshall running for the same space. Marshall's not very popular. They're kind of neck and neck. And as we saw a few weeks ago, nobody really cares about a lot of these races except for the faithful few. And the faithful few are going to look to Donald Trump for leadership.
I've never seen two candidates that just pulled a minimum amount of folks. Again, but Barry Moore has been close to the president. He supported him. He's one of the first, or if maybe the first statewide officer who, not statewide officer, but he was in the legislature then. He came out full-throated in favor of Trump, and there you go. What do you think, Josh?
I hope the earth swallows them all.
I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that at all.
I didn't expect it, but I'm not surprised.
My God, the fact that Donald Trump, who's polling under 30% at this point, is going to be the deciding factor in who we elect us in to be one of 100 people to decide the fate of the country and the direction of the country is just depressing. It's honest to God depressing. I like Barry Moore better than I like Steve Marshall, but honestly, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah. Is that like saying you'd rather have a broken big toe or a broken little toe?
It's like saying I'd rather have flu A than flu B, I think.
Yeah, right.
It's honest. It's just, you still end up over the toilet no matter what. Honestly, I don't. I just,
I do not dislike Barry Moore. I do dislike Steve Marshall.
No, with a passion for me.
For plenty of good reasons.
Yes.
He is just a terrible
He's a
human
horrid
being.
human being.
But
The man pulled his wife's suicide in an election.
I know.
I just think that whatever we're doing here is just going to be another vote for something that nobody really takes seriously, and we're still going to be relying on Katie Britt to bring money home, and she's going to really have no assistance, like she currently has now in trying to fill that Richard Shelby role, which I really wish that she would get more back to doing that instead of some of the other stuff. But to me, it's just a waste. It could be so much more for so many people if we could get somebody there to take it seriously, to get in there and actually get on an appropriations committee or get on a committee that makes some difference and make a real difference to the state and the people here.
Yeah. It would be refreshing while Jeff Sessions, when he was a senator, really concentrated more on national issues, but he always was in Senator Shelby's corner and had his back when it came to bringing things home to Alabama.
To bring a football reference into this, I just don't think that the Republican Party at that level has the depth to be able to produce someone like that.
They don't in Alabama. They truly don't, which is shocking. I think
it's terrible.
If somebody like a Nathaniel Ledbetter had run or Will Ainsworth had run, I think you would have a lot more enthusiasm about it. These are just not two candidates who people are particularly
No.
enthusiastic about. But it brings me back to another thing, and I wrote about this week, and not in specific terms, but you know, Donald Trump has such influence over the base of the Republican Party, and being president, he has an outsized role on the world stage, and we saw this past week how he was over in Davos and really talking down to our NATO allies as if they were bad people and school children. And
Hey, listen, those people in Switzerland would be speaking German.
because they
Chinese.
speak German already.
Right. Hey, listen, man, he's on a roll. It's like we've, honest to God, we've elected Blutarski or whatever his name was from Animal House.
But
Belushi.
I was thinking back to I wrote about how when the founders drafted when they drafted the Declaration of Independence, they listed the grievances against Bad King George.
Mm-hmm.
And they particularly, when they set up the Constitution, which is our roadmap, you know, that is our raison d'etre, they specifically said no king. They made a president, and they had checks and balances, and it's all totally different than it was because every presidency has succeeded in taking a little bit more power. But no one has ever taken the presidency to the level of what I would call an imperial presidency, where they can actually say the only guardrails or only thing that governs me is my own morality and mine. But when Donald Trump has the audacity to say that his morality and his mind are the only stopgaps to what he will do, I would say, holy Hannah, hold on to your whatever.
Yeah, it's quite the statement, right? I mean, the guy who was caught up in the scandal with the porn star is using his morality to judge us all, or to judge.
Who's also appears in the Epstein files. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, you know, it just. Honestly, I'll tell you. I'll say what's most disappointing to me, and we saw a good symbol of it during the hearings with Jack Smith on Thursday, is the lengths to which these folks who are supposed to be the checks and balance over this president continue to describe the emperor's grand clothes, despite the fact we all know he's naked. And, you know, it just continues on and on and on. And you wonder at some point, is there a line? I mean, we got people that are legitimately coming out now and talking about what a great deal it would be to own Greenland. And, oh, yeah, we should take it by force. And the hell with those Europeans. You know, I mean, what are y'all talking about? What are you talking about?
Again, I have never in my life thought, and look, some people are going to think I took it so too far. Listen to the man speak. He doesn't speak the English language with any coherency.
He called Greenland Iceland 4 times.
Yeah, and then his press secretary said that they were lying about that. But anyway, we got to leave it right there. If you love the president, God bless you. I respect the office, but the office is going to hell in a handbasket. Anyway, you're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You know, I got a email the other day, and I get this from time to time, where somebody said, I know Republicans are awful and Democrats are wonderful. No, I don't think that. I think that people in the parties can be good. I think that people in both parties can be idiots. I think both parties have wonderful people and both parties have bad people. The problem with the Republican Party right now is that they follow the bad people. They follow the people that want to be cruel, that want to be mean, that don't want to help people. Right now, you have a Democratic Party, especially in Alabama, that has a plan that would help people. I'm concerned about people. Josh, you're concerned about people. The Democrats that are in this state have a plan to help people.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's they launched I wrote a column about this, and I kind of juxtapose what the Democrats are proposing at this point to do with affordability and lowering prices, and they've got this really, I think, a great idea of a way to help farmers and get more food from local farms into local grocery stores, into local retailers, and get it on the table in your neighborhoods and stuff, and to get healthier options in front of people for a more affordable price, and affordability, bringing down healthcare costs, bringing down a lot of the costs that you face on a daily basis. This is all part of their plan, and you juxtapose that to what Kay Ivey talked about the other night, which was, school choice. I mean, giving more money to the rich folks to send their kids to private school at the expense of your public schools. Putting more people to death. It seems as though one is way out of touch, especially if you look at polling and what people really care about. Now, I know we've divided this thing up into team politics, and the party that you're affiliated with seems to make far more difference to people than, like you said, who's good and who's bad within those particular parties, or who has a good idea and who has a bad idea. But I seem to recall a whole lot of people really liking that tax exemption for overtime pay.
Yeah.
I seem that, that got repealed. I seem to recall a whole bunch of people saying, why the hell can't we vote on having a lottery in this, and gambling in this state? And that never happens. So what do you want out of your government? And this is what I keep saying over and over again. What do you want out of your government? And then elect people or force the people who you elect to do those things.
Well, I'd like to point out a line here in between the divide in between what the Republicans are trying to do this time and what the Democrats are trying to do. And it comes down to something very simple. Is the way people think about it. What the Democrats are looking at is doing farm to table, so that if you want to feed your children on a SNAP benefit, better food for less money, as opposed to the Republicans' approach is to, put what they call junk food or, prepackaged food, et cetera, on, an elimination list that they cannot buy these things. Where, macaroni and cheese is going to cost a lot less than organic carrots to try to feed a child with. The two different approaches is the Democrats say, okay, let's go to the farmers and help the farmers and bring it to the grocery store so that the person with the SNAP benefit will be more able to afford this, where the Republicans just want to ban anything that they think is detrimental to health, not considering the fact that they have to budget those pennies in those SNAP benefits, and so are they going to buy the organic carrot or are they going to buy the macaroni and cheese?
Well, and interestingly enough, it was discovered in this past week's session that the new plan that the Republicans have to crack down on SNAP benefits and other benefits are going to require 800 new government employees to implement a plan to save a few dollars on who's getting SNAP benefits.
I'd love to do the
They
SNAP
never
on that
know.
one.
They never know, man. They never, and this is the problem that you have when you vote for team politics. We had Ron Sparks on our podcast this week, who's running for Ag Commissioner again. And by the way, it's Alabama Politics this week if you'd like to listen. And Ron talked about things that have happened to that department since he's been gone over the last 15 years. And one of the main things that's happened is they've done away with the inspections and the testing of gas. Mm-hmm. It's ag and industry. And so they test they used to go while Sparks was there and test all these things. So you knew if you were going to a gas station and it says 93 octane because your vehicle requires high octane gas, that you were actually getting that. Well, we see all sorts of times now where people talk about, well, we got bad gas over at this place and don't go there and shop anymore. It's because they've stopped testing for it.
Yeah.
That's the sort of government progress that you're looking for, or the performance that you're looking for. And we've shunned that because you're voting for the team instead of the people who might perform better at the job.
Right, and in fact, at each gas station, each pump had a sticker
Yeah.
with
Yes.
the ag and industry. It was at that time was Ron Sparks' name on
Yep.
each pump.
And
it had been inspected.
That's because it had been inspected.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
they did away with that because they said it would be cheaper not to inspect the gas. But if you get bad
No, they let the companies inspect themselves and file the reports with them.
Yeah. Well, you always want to let the fox guard the hen house. I mean, that's just
Exactly.
common
I
sense,
used to
right?
I used to work for a guy who his family was in the gas industry, and he said always buy the lowest. I'll always buy the cheapest gas because what you're there inflating the price, and there's really no difference in between the high octane and the low
Well,
octane.
it's just when you talk about big government and you talk about saving 800 people to implement a law, some laws that probably going to snatch just candy away from some kid or some mama who maybe has just a little hair over it's just ridiculous. Another ridiculous thing that's happened this week, and we only got a minute. I would love to spend more time on this. About Alabama Department of Environmental Management, they have moved to make it so they can regulate less, as if you could do fewer things to help the environment in Alabama. Now they've said we're going to cut it back to you can't do any more than the federal government's doing, and which basically means under this administration you can't do diddly squat. But,
So you're about to go from being able to eat one fish out of the lakes and rivers and streams here in Alabama, as recommended currently because of the high levels of poisons that are floating around in there, to zero fish. Zero fish.
Yeah.
Right, and it's illegal to build a home garden in Anniston because Monsanto's poisoned all that ground. So go to it, 3M and Monsanto.
Is we're worried about that. We're also getting ready to trying to pass a bill that'll make, HB 56 look like kids play. Again, we were promised no craziness. We're getting more crazy.
We're only in 2
But
weeks.
we were
This is the
promised
second
that by
weekend.
crazy people.
Right. This is the second weekend, and all this is already
I was promised
starting.
that by what I thought were serious people. But anyway, we got to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.